Hey guys, today I'm bringing you a theory in which Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen would marry in the upcoming season, a theory that I personally wouldn't like to happen, considering that Jon is Daenerys' nephew, which just sounds so wrong, even though incest is kind of a normal thing in Game of Thrones, not to mention in Targaryen family. While I wouldn't like it, there are a lot of facts that are pointing on this marriage, a lot of reasons that I'll introduce you with in this video. After 6 seasons, Daenerys Targaryen has finally begun her journey across the narrow sea, has finally set sail for Westeros with an impressive fleet formed of her armies and her allies, along with her 3 large dragons, a move that has been in the making since the very first season, a move that will doubtlessly change the political playing field of Westeros. However, before Dany could leave Meereen, she had to leave someone behind, her loyal protector with benefits, Daeron Harris. Her reasons for leaving him in Meereen were just because she needed someone she can trust to rule over the city and to ensure that it doesn't fall back into slavery while she is across the narrow sea. But more important reason for leaving him is in the fact that the Mother of Dragons is looking for potential suitors in Westeros, which would provide her a new alliance, which would lead her one step further in conquering the Iron Throne. The most important reason for that scene, in which Dany broke up with Daario, was included in the finale, to foreshadow the most important marriage in Game of Thrones series that have ever happened or is going to happen, the most powerful alliance in Westeros that will be most likely forged at some point in Season 7. Daenerys is coming to Westeros with her house's words precisely. She is coming with fire and blood, with the strongest army the world has seen since the fall of Valyria, which makes her path to conquering the 7 kingdoms quite easier. But Dany doesn't want only to conquer it. She wants to build a stable order, wants to reunite all 7 kingdoms, of which most are in an open rebellion against the crown, which requires the support of the great lords of Westeros. Most of the great lords of the 7 kingdoms we used to know are dead, replaced by a new generation, or with no one at all, like the Reach for an example, which has no lords, now that the Tyrells are essentially extinguished, and the Stormlands who also have no lord either, since the Baratheons are dead. Cersei and Jaime will rule House Lannister and the Westerlands together. The Martells, or should I say the Sand Snakes, beside their own woman, they have already become Dany's ally, which eliminates them as one of Dany's possible suitors as well. The Riverlands belong to House Frey, but Arya took care of it in the Season 6 finale by killing the head of that house, along with his 2 sons, even though Walder still has many heirs. In my opinion, the power balance will swing back to House Tully, with Edmure on its head, who also has a wife and a child, meaning that beside him being useless ally for Dany, he's also not a possible suitor. There are only 3 lords that don't have a wife, but are having a power. Those 3 fitting candidates for Daenerys are Euron Greyjoy, the king of the Iron Islands who has no wife, possesses a power and probably at this point has a huge iron fleet, but there won't be a marriage between those 2 since Daenerys promised to kill Euron and to set Yara as a queen of the Iron Islands. The second candidate for marrying the Mother of Dragons is the Lord of the Vale, Robin, who has the strongest army in the 7 kingdoms, but he is too young. Manipulated by Littlefinger, and also his army should be under commands of the king in the north, which makes Jon Snow even a better match for Dany. The only logical choice for Daenerys, and the only one that major amount of fans are already shipping, is a marriage between the Mother of Dragons and the king in the north. Not only that Jon is the only logical option, since as a king Jon is the second most powerful person in the 7 kingdoms, one of a few men who actually has any authority, and the man that also controls an army of Stark loyalists who will fight beside Jon Snow to the bitter end. But their pairing would also fulfill an ancient pact between those 2 houses, a pact that is dating all the way back before Aerys' madness. All the way back to the civil war between the Targaryens known as the Dance of the Dragons, war in which House Stark supported the claim of a queen, Rhaenyra Targaryen, a pact that was sustained with the condition in which a Targaryen, a royal princess, would marry a Stark. This agreement, known as the Pact of Ice and Fire, was never fulfilled, but it could change in the upcoming season, since Daenerys doesn't want only to conquer the 7 kingdoms, but wants to make it a better place, wants to build a stable structure, and marrying with Jon Snow would bring her support and control over the kingdom that is large as the other 6 combined. Daenerys already has one of the strongest military forces by the sea and the strongest by air, which means that this marriage would also provide her the biggest army on the land as well, since she already has her two big armies and a huge army provided by her allies. I understand your concerns about accuracy of this theory, since Jon knows that all the lords should stop fighting between each other and unite all of their armies to stand a chance against the Undead army, but Jon also understands that with Cersei Lannister on the Iron Throne it will be impossible to do. Dany wants the Iron Throne and Jon wants to build an army to defeat the White Walkers and their White Horde, but neither will happen without the other's help. I don't expect this marriage to happen until the very end of Season 7, since we all know Jon Snow's personality, and we know that Jon will most likely give Cersei a chance to stop fighting and to join her army to the greatest cause, but upon realizing that Cersei, who will probably at this point also be married to Euron, will represent a huge threat for the living side, Jon will decide to bring her reign to an end, and that's in my opinion the moment in which Jon and Dany will join their forces, will marry each other. With this political marriage, in my opinion, there will also be a pact, an agreement in which Jon will help Daenerys to win the Iron Throne and stop Cersei's madness, but it's time for good, whereupon they're going to prepare for the greatest battle without any threat behind from the living side. With an official confirmation that Jon is actually a son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, it places Daenerys as Jon's aunt. But that's nothing new in Game of Thrones world, we've seen worse than that. We've seen a brother and sister having intimate relations, while it's also important to highlight that incestuous pairings have never bothered Targaryens. Targaryens spent over 300 years wedding brother to sister in order to keep their bloodline pure, which means that union between an aunt and her nephew seems within the realm of possibility, even though they probably wouldn't do that if they would know the true Jon's identity. But no one knows that Jon is half Targaryen, no one knows his true identity, no one but Bran, who will arrive at Winterfell and won't have a chance to reveal the truth to Jon, since Jon will be heading to Dragonstone at the time of Bran's arrival. There's one more person beside Bran that knows Jon's true identity. It's Howland Reed, Minor's father, who is the only man that survived a fight against Sir Arthur Dayne and at the same time saved Ned from a certain death. Howland Reed, the man that was the first who charged against the Sword of the Morning, whereupon he was slashed across the chest by Dayne and almost died, but also the man who saved Ned from a certain death, saved Ned Stark who gave his best, but couldn't stand a chance against Sir Arthur Dayne's superior fighting skills, and got himself disarmed. This same man, the Lord of Greywater Watch, the father of Mira and Jojen Reed, loyal vassal of House Stark, Howland Reed, who has played a very important role in Stark's life, with saving Ned from a certain death, is playing a very important role, because if not his children, Bran probably wouldn't have even become a three-eyed raven. In addition, he would probably be dead and will play a huge role, because I'm expecting from showrunners to bring Howland Reed in the show, along with a few explanations, for example, what was Howland doing while his son died for Ned's son, and while his daughter is still beyond the wall protecting Bran. But yeah, beside Bran and Howland, no one knows Jon's true identity. He is still known as a Stark bastard and the King in the North, which beside increasing a possibility of this marriage, also might be a problem, since Starks and Targaryens haven't had a friendly relationship after the Mad King, Dany's father and Jon's grandfather, brutally killed Ned Stark's father, who protested against Rhaegar's kidnap over his daughter Lyanna, and also killed Ned's brother Brandon, who was hot-blooded, known as the Wild Wolf, who, upon finding out about Rhaegar's action, rode to King's Landing immediately with his squire only. Brave and fearless Brandon, upon entering the Red Keep, shouted for Rhaegar to come out and die, but Rhaegar wasn't there, leading to Brandon and his few companions getting arrested by Aerys, the Mad King, whereupon he forced Brandon to watch as his father was burned alive in his own armor, while Brandon strangled himself while attempting to get to his sword in order to save his father. While Aerys was mad and killed Jon's uncle and grandfather, along with any good relationships with the Starks, I don't think it's going to be a big issue for Dany's and Jon's marriage. Daenerys knows that her father was known as the Mad King, meaning that she doesn't have anything against House Stark, while Jon, as the current head of House Stark, also most likely doesn't have a reason to hate Targaryens, since Daenerys has nothing to do with her father's sins. Let me also highlight one detail, one sentence from the leaked plot, a sentence which I personally wouldn't like to happen, a sentence which says that Jon Snow and Daenerys are going to have intimate relations on a boat while heading north, which would be so wrong and weird, at least for me, because as we all know, and as I've already said a few times, Jon is Dany's nephew, a fact which they don't and at that point won't know, so it's not their fault, but also it's not surprising for Game of Thrones world, not to mention for House Targaryen. In conclusion, this marriage would make their goals come true to both of them. Dany would avenge her family and would sit on the Iron Throne, while Jon would get rid of the biggest villains and the biggest threat for the living side, since with Cersei and Euron alive, Jon won't be able to unite all armies together. And if all armies of Westeros wouldn't unite, divided Westeros wouldn't stand a chance against the undead army. Let me know your opinion on all of this in the comment section down below. I'm curious what your thoughts are about this political marriage. Is it just me who find it wrong and weird, but at the same time this same marriage seems to be more than required, since divided Westeros won't stand a chance once the White Walkers and their White Horde cross or even knock the wall down. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.